What's going on, guys? Thank you for watching my channel and watching this video. Please like, comment, subscribe below for more content like this. Appreciate it.
And I want to land the plane with this discussion of consequence culture versus cancel culture. I think the right conservatives got this right for like 2 seconds after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and so I want to make sure that we are that we're putting this in the proper context. So the Jimmy Kimmel gets on his nightly show, I believe on ABC. I think it's ABC, and told a joke about Charlie Kirk getting killed, and he got a lot of blowback from it. People hammered him for that joke, and they should have hammered him for it because it was not appropriate. And Jimmy Kimmel is now come out now that Jimmy Kimmel was wanting to go a lot harder on MAGA and Charlie Kirk, and he's probably not upset that Charlie was assassinated. I wouldn't be shocked about that at all. And what was hilarious about that was that, the left came out and said, well, this is cancel culture, and conservatives, they talk a big game, but then Jimmy tells a joke they don't like and it's an attack on free speech. It's like, okay, number one, it's not an attack on free speech that Jimmy Kimmel almost got kicked off the air. It was an audience voicing an opinion on what they wanted. And the reality is that Jimmy Kimmel and everybody else like Jimmy Kimmel can be canceled because they're not saying anything valuable. And so now with the whole Tucker thing, the reason why they will never be able to cancel Tucker Carlson or Nick Fuentes for that matter is because there's demand for what they have to say. There was this great moment when Dave Chappelle a couple years ago was getting he was in the midst of one of his cancellations. I think it was after the joke he made about trans people in The Closer, and he was getting attacked by all these woke comedians. And one of them was this woman by the name of Hannah Gadsby, who got this this big profile, I think in the New York Times, about like, oh my gosh, she's the future of comedy. And she's like the most unfunny person ever. And Dave Chappelle is one of, if not the funniest person that has ever walked the face of the earth in a public setting. And Chappelle apparently gets out there. I think this might have been when he was on stage with Rogan and Tom Segura, I think in a show in New Orleans. And he gets out there and he said, look, I'll go away as long as you admit that Hannah Gadsby's not funny. And of course they couldn't say that Hannah Gadsby was not funny because they all wanted to push a narrative that Hannah Gadsby was funnier than Dave Chappelle, which was not true. People like Dave Chappelle because Dave Chappelle's funny. People don't like Hannah Gadsby because Hannah Gadsby's not funny. Andrew Schultz's immortalized line, the bottom line of any joke is the joke funny? If the joke is funny, you can say it. If it's not funny, then don't say it. If what you're saying is valuable, you can say it. If it's not valuable, we're going to cancel you. You're not popular. The market does not demand what you are saying, which is exactly the dynamic with Jimmy Kimmel and with Tucker Carlson. That's why the opposite sides are working. So this is what I think Ali Bestucky talked about this. A couple other people talked about this and named this. I thought this was actually a really good branding techniques, call back to Vivek's earlier point about truth, of consequence culture. So consequence culture, which is what conservatives should be leaning into, is when you say things the audience rejects and that doesn't move the needle forward, you are not being canceled because someone wants to cancel you, because of your opposition, because you have haters, or the woke people are coming after you, or whatever. You're being canceled because you suck. Jimmy Kimmel sucks. That's why he could be canceled. Tucker Carlson, to his audience, does not suck. Why they'll never be able to cancel Tucker Carlson or Nick Fuentes or anybody that has the demand of whoever they have. This is the what have you done for me lately question. When there is no demand for what you provide, whether it's a widget or a product or a service or a podcast, when there is no demand for that thing, you are expendable. You're expendable. So the goal should be to make yourself more valuable, not demand that all the world be made in your image, be different according to you, where you get to play God and say what is acceptable, what's not acceptable. You don't get to decide that. I say this about writing all the time. When I write an article, when I write a book, when I make one of these shows, I have a lot of opinions I have all the editorial control. I have everything that I say on here is what I want to say. I can't get, no one will ever tell me to shut up ever about anything. But when I put it out there, it's not mine anymore. It's the market's. You guys decide whether you like what I have to say or not. And I have to adjust and do all those things to make sure my content is valuable. And this is, by the way, where the right has been correct in calling out the mainstream press, the mainstream media, because they have been propping up these dead corpses of institutions for years. ABC News, the New York Times, CNN, and where the left would do well is that they need to let the markets do the work and let them die. Like, we learned this in every single economic bubble. Anything that inflates value without the inherent bolstering from the bottom up is not real. That's why the mortgage crisis happened. That's why the dot-com bubble happened. That's why the COVID bubble happened. And it should be rebuked immediately and set up for cancellation. So, if no one tried to save CNN would die on the vine. They would wither on the vine. And this is why free speech is important. And wrapping this all up with this whole hour-plus long rant on, I hope it was a tolerable rant at least, on free speech and the Carlson Fuentes thing. This is why free speech is important. We need to have dumb people like Jimmy Kimmel, like Nick Fuentes, speak so that smart people, Tucker Carlson, other people in that sphere, can redirect them, can own and insert themselves in the conversation, in the fray, so that they can correct them and rebuke them and do all the things needed to be done to make sure that things are happening in that proper way. Because free speech is the only way to flush out bad ideas and stupid people. It is the only way. So given that, we need to let them do, the stupid people, what we need to do and talk. The same is true with Jimmy Kimmel as it is with Nick Fuentes. By the way, as it was true with Andrew Tate. Remember the Andrew Tate thing? Oh my gosh, Andrew Tate's going to take over the world. Andrew Tate's not relevant anymore. At least not nearly as he once was. Because why? People let him talk. Tucker Carlson, let him talk. Candace Owens, let him talk. People aren't saying that Andrew Tate is a threat to society now. Why? Because people are seeing that, oh, wow, Andrew Tate kind of says a lot of really not helpful things and kind of stupid stuff, and, we shouldn't do that. The same is exactly true with Nick Fuentes. And every single person that opposes freedom of speech, particularly in the case of malicious and stupid people like Nick Fuentes and Jimmy Kimmel and Andrew Tate, they're an enemy. And we need to get them out of the conversation so we can have the smart people inside of the conversation. Bottom line, the market works, folks. Whether it's ideas or business or anything, or churches or anything else, the market works. So use it. Let the market do its thing. He who has the gold makes the rules. He who allows free speech will allow free speech to do what it does. Root out the bad ideas, elevate the good ideas. It has always worked. That is always how it's been worked. And we need to allow it to run its course.